I'm Claire, and come here till I tell you about all the different ways that I celebrated St. Bridget this year. Surely you mean St. Patrick, I hear you say. St. Bridget first. If you don't know who St. Bridget is, shame on you. You can find out here in a video that I made earlier. But basically, she's Ireland's matron saint, and this year we went all out celebrating her. The first thing I did was head to the St. Bridget's Day parade on St. Bridget's Day and chat to all the women taking part about what the crack was, why they got involved in it, and what St. Bridget means to them.
Brigid is so multifaceted. She was a brewer, she was a blacksmith, she was a healer. She did phenomenal stuff with fire and water, but she was also just this badass who just didn't care and just did her own thing. I put a group together called Nagashgig. Nagashgig is the Irish word for female warriors. So we have this 12-person female samba group called Chidambaram Samba coming down from Belfast. They're just going to drum along, and we have enormous heads of the likes of Giselle Pellico, Mary Robinson, Vicky Phelan, Marsha P. Johnson, just brilliant, phenomenal women, and I am being joined by brilliant, phenomenal women.
So the Broccoli Project is about raising the divine feminine to meet that already exists of the divine masculine. So these are all the pre-patriarchal goddess cultures of old Europe. 80 people have contributed to making the different images here. And we took those images then and we made a bespoke fabric from it. And then from the bespoke fabric we created the cloak. And the Brigid's cloak has now travelled all over Ireland, north, south, east and west. It has also been across to the States where it has been embroidered on by women's circles over there. And it's just returned for this Brigid's Day festival here. And about 200 women have taken part so far in elevating the divine feminine.
I'm into the YouTube. I want to play the shit when I read it.
The second thing I did was I went to the Irish Whiskey Museum for a storytelling night with a group called Candlelit Tales, where I learned a lot about Brigid that I didn't already know, including her contentious parentage and the thing that she was the first ever person in Ireland to do. Not the abortion. Something else.
Happy and Bullock, everyone. All right, we're going to work on the interaction. You're not going to be sitting there all night doing absolutely nothing. We're going to have to like eke some responses out of you. It's storytelling, not the theatre. Does anyone know much about Brigid? We got one so quiet one where a friend had to go, "You fucking know loads." And would you say she's a saint or a goddess? Both. Good answer, good answer. We have a custom of forgetting about our goddesses that are in this land and have been part of this land for a very, very long, long time. Ireland is named after a goddess. We know it as Era. The Celts who had these stories, they were a matriarchal society. We know this for fact now. And many of these goddesses, and Brigid being among them, well, they were great characters in stories and they were celebrated at certain times, and they had aspects that we still love to hone in on. Love, healing, abundance, fertility. These are aspects of Mother Nature as well. Being fierce and destructive and being hugely giving and abundant always. And so when we think about Brigid, we look back at the veils between beliefs, different stories, different religions, and different peoples who put their own spin on her. And now, more than ever, we're recreating what she means to us today, which is what mythology is supposed to do. It's a fabric we all weave together. We each get a strand and a little strain, and we try and weave it to make some meaning out of this fucking madness. And when you compare the battles and epic stories to the mindless battles of modern times, you can think that it is meaningless, but it gives you some sense of why these stories were told, to understand maybe our place in amongst the madness. So who was Brigid? We have to look at her parents. She's the only goddess I know, she's also probably the only person or woman I know, who has contention over who her mother is. Usually it's the other way around, you see. But Brigid, well, definitely the daughter of the Dagda. You know, the Dagda was the good god. A good lad for the pints, merry-making. He was not good because he was very kind, necessarily. He was just great at stuff. He had a great club in which he could knock 10 men down and bring people back with the other side of this huge club. I mentioned it was a huge club. Life-giving and life-taking. I don't know, maybe it's phallic, I'm not sure. There was a battle. The Dagda wanted the best goddess to be on their side. She's the goddess of battle rage. She would instill such fury in the battle that, well, if she was on your side, surely you would win. Morrigan wasn't really sure. Would she give her grace to the Tuatha? She didn't really always see eye to eye with all these warring kings and tribes, and who was she to pick sides anyway? And so the Dagda decided he would go up and, you know, talk some sense into her. He was also very well known for being an excellent lover, so that was his plan. I'll just seduce the goddess of battle rage. What could possibly go wrong? He came up to where the dark Morrigan was supposed to be, and, well, she saw him coming. And she stretched hugely high and stretched her legs out to the other side of a river that she was standing beside, so that she would be in the middle of a fast-flowing river, and the Dagda could utter no sweet words into her ear, not get a little bit close, not even a bit. He'd just have to be drowned into the water. The Dagda took one look at her and said, I have a plan. I know what to do. Got into the river, very cold, very fast-flowing. And as it was pushing him and moving him down, he got his club and aimed that club right into the middle of the woman who was standing. He spread-legged on the other side of the river. The story goes that she was so well satisfied with the Dagda there and then that she said, I'll do whatever you want. And so she took on the side of the Tuatha and, well, she rained fire on the Fomorians, the Fuimura, and set about such a shrieking for 3 days and 3 nights that not a warrior among them got a wink of sleep until she poured blood down from the skies to terrorize them before the battle even begun. Maybe that was the mother of Brigid. There was another woman who might have been her mother, Boann, the goddess we remember today in Meath when we see the River Boyne. She was married to a king of the Tuatha, and in one great battle he lost his arm. And it was said that anyone with any injury or deformity would not be allowed to be king or woman king, because the king had to represent the wholeness and the abundance and the brilliance of the land. When Dean Kecht came and gave him a great silver arm, the physician of the Tuatha, he wove a silver hair into the stump that was there, whispering a prayer, a spell, an incantation, skin to skin, sinew to sinew, and bone to bone. And then he became known as Nuada of the silver arm, because we're not very imaginative in Ireland. We just like to tell people exactly what they are. She was married to this king with a silver arm, and he was going to lose his kingship because even though he had a silver arm, it wasn't as whole and it wasn't as well and it wasn't as warm to touch as a real arm. And so maybe the coldness got into his heart, maybe the coldness and frostiness grew and separated and pushed them apart. Whichever way it was Boann who wove herself a cloak to make herself invisible to all eyes. Maybe she felt invisible to the man she was supposed to be in love with, so why else would she be seen by anyone else? And so she walked the hillsides all around Tara, being unseen, being invisible, and walking away from any love or touch or warmth, till she heard a fairly beautiful sound. And in a brilliant shaft and a beam of sunlight across the river, she saw a man standing in a glade, the Dagda. He was playing music on his harp so beautifully and swiftly, up and down and up and down. She was enchanted, and she couldn't be seen, so she got that little bit closer, and she looked at him, and suddenly he said, "Oh yeah." And she was surprised, and she realized he could see her even though she had her magic spell around her. She walked across the river, leaving that cloak fall into the water and whisk away, and well, some say it's still out there, floating around the place. The Dagda and Boan fell into each other's arms. They fell into longing, into finding, into lust. And as the sun crept up high into that sky, Boan said, "I have to go. As soon as the sun gets low, I'll have to go back to the king. After all, yeah, he's calling me now. Like, fuck, I really don't want to go back, but he's worried about me." And so she told the Dagda that, you know, it's not really cool to sleep a night out away from your husband. Riding's fine, but you know, sleeping half a night's not okay. You know. Dagda said, that's strong logic. I like that logic. And he whispered something up to the sun, and the sun just twinkled. And they talked, and they went over the hills, and they told each other stories. And as they were going, the sun just stayed there. And this is how they spent a whole week, then a month, then a few more after that. And they were making love, telling stories, wandering around, and the sun stayed in the sky for a whole year. Enough time for her belly to grow and her to give birth to a beautiful baby boy, Angus Og, the young Angus, because he was always 9 months younger than he should have been, because he was conceived and born in a single day. So they say. Now, some say she also had another child that day, and that child might have been Brigid. The Dagda was the father of Brigid, and Brigid was married, some say, to Bress. And they even had a son named Ruadán. Now, Brigid comes up a couple of times in Irish mythology. There's a battle where Brigid is mentioned. On the eve of the battle, they were all ready. Gobnu, the smith, was making the weapons. The Dagda was playing the harp to instigate heroic emotions and vigor and vitality and good wordedness, probably. I don't know, better than that. And of course, Lou was marshalling. And he was sending all of the battalions, all of the legions of armies to go against this terrible foe, this amazing army. The Fuimura had brought creatures from the other world underneath the sea to come and attack them, you see. And so they were asking the land itself to fight against the invaders. The branches of the trees were hitting and tripping them. Even the birds were cawing and coming down to claw them. They were getting no rest for the shrieks of the Morrigan. The rain of fire and blood was sapping their desire to fight. And Brigid was fighting with them alongside every one of them until she saw Gobnu, the smith, fighting with Ruadán, her own son, who went to try and kill him with one punch and one burst of his sword, but Gobnu blocked it and chopped his head from his shoulders. When Brigid saw her son fall, she let out such a scream, such a cry, such an emotive feeling that the whole armies stopped. And everyone took a step back as they heard the wailing, the lamenting, and what is now known as the keening of Brigid, as she fell to her knees, clasping the body of her son and pulling him to her. And the anguish and the pain and the suffering that she poured out of her voice was enough to stop the fighting for a whole day. And that's first time anyone keened on the land of Ireland And it became a tradition, like many indigenous customs of grief and grieving. When someone is too shocked by the horror and trauma, a keener would come in to evoke that feeling of sadness and despair, because you need to feel these things to let them pass through you. And if Brigid is the goddess of healing, if Brigid is the goddess of craft, she is the goddess that has taught us how to feel deeply and make something out of it. The battle went to Tuatha De Danann's way, by the way. And forevermore, we'll still remember Brigid, the goddess of craft, of smithwork, of healing, the first woman who ever keened on this island. Go get a drink.
And last but certainly not least, after meeting the ladies from the My Brigid project at Festival Manaw and at the St. Bridget's Day Parade, I said I had to go to one of their workshops and make my own brat brida. So I signed up to one at a library near me. Not only was the workshop free, they provide all the materials. I even brought the wrong type of scarf, so she gave me one of the donated scarves they have. I have to say now it was a lovely experience, and my favourite part was that I brought Fionn with me and he actually picked out the colours and tried to pull out the stitches as I was stitching them into the scarf. Fiona and I made this together. How cool is that? He picked that purple and one of those blues. He was on my lap for a lot of when I was doing it, so we kind of did it together. And they were talking a lot about energy and energy being infused into your brat brida. Fiona's energy is in there with mine because he was on my lap helping entering. So I love that. It's super like beginner and messy, but I actually love it because it's about the experience. If you like this video, please subscribe, tell a friend. There are full extended versions of both the parade and the storytelling night up on Patreon, which is what funds these videos. I also have merch. The St. Bridget's Day merch drop is now closed, but the St. Patrick's Day merch drop is now open. Get your St. Patrick's Day merch now in time for St. Patrick's Day. We'll talk about him next, okay? He'll be the very next one. Bridget comes first and Patrick comes second, like a good gentleman. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Slán, slán. Last but not least, it's actually Seachtain na Gaeilge in Ireland, which is a 3-week period designed to promote the Irish language. So I'm going to be doing Irish language content on all my other platforms. So check out the link in the description if you're interested. I will have it subtitled in English so everybody can understand it. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.